Well, thank you very much, Claire. And I think one of the first ideas we should have come up with actually was a rostrum that's not too high so I can see over it. I'm a card-carrying member of Little Labour, and we're not always looked after. So can you see me? Right. Okay. I'm honoured to be the chair of the National Policy Forum, and is there anyone in the room who's actually a member of the National Policy Forum? Right, so don't let her get out of the place without talking to her about your idea. There are 200 members of the National Policy Forum at the moment, all elected to represent their own particular geographical areas and some stakeholders in the party, and they come together every year to consider the work that the policy commissions are doing. We have 7 of those, and you have all just taken part in an economic policy making commission session, which will be fed back into the work that that policy commission is doing. But all of us know, and Jeremy made it an important part of his election campaign, that we have to have much more input into our policy making process and make sure that we redevelop it so that it can reach out to all parts of the country, all of our communities, all parts of the party with our stakeholders too, so that we can actually really be in touch in the way in which we formulate policy with what's actually going on in our country. Now, have any of you seen the film Pride? Has anyone seen that film? That is a very important example of how the Labour Party makes its policy. And the Policy Forum helps with that too. In this instance, it was actually before the Policy Forum was created, but we saw in Pride the fact that the lesbians and gays support the miners, did solidarity work during the miners' strike. They found out that they had quite a lot in common in terms of being oppressed minorities. They supported each other. And because of the work that was done and the understanding that was gained by that campaigning work, the National Union of Mine Workers actually moved the motions at conference, which meant that the Labour Party adopted its policies on LGBT rights, which when we came into government, we used to transform the entire country for LGBT people and make one of the most progressive advances in anti-discrimination law that we've ever seen. So I think we should all give ourselves a clap. See, the way that we make policy in the Labour Party is really important to us. I joined the Labour Party to change the world. Who else joined the Labour Party to change the world? It's everybody. And so we care about what our policy is, we care where it comes from, and we care what effect it will have up and down our country and all our communities. So how do we develop the National Policy Forum, make it reach out, make it easier for people to engage with, so that we can actually have that listening, debate, consultation, and bring all of that expertise, knowledge, values, views back into the party so that we can help create a policy platform from which we can write our manifesto. And that is very simple. That's what I'm trying to do with the policy review, to see how we can update the way that we make policy so we reach out more, so that we're more responsive and therefore more in touch, so that we know the things that are affecting people up and down our communities that you might not read about in the newspapers because they're not always there looking for this kind of news, but we can actually stay in touch with the country that we aspire to help govern. So, we are in the middle now of a review, and I'm doing meetings up and down the country about how you would want to see our policy changed, how we can use new media to do so, because in the past we've had 20, 30,000 people involved in our policy changes. And when we introduced Your Britain, which is a policy hub now, an electronic hub, a bit clunky now, a bit out of date, that went up from 20-odd thousand in the last policy processes for the 2010 election to 250,000 in the policy process we had for the 2015 election. But we want to make it much greater than that. We want to make it much more all-encompassing, and we want to make it easier and more responsive so that people can have discussions, so that people can try to get replies. One of the biggest worries with our policy conferences and our policy forum is that it's very difficult to get replies back to people about what has happened to their ideas, because we've only got so many staff in the party and we can't have them answering emails the whole time because they've got other things to do. So this is where the work that Tom is doing on digital transformation is going to tie in very much with how we create new, much more responsive policy-making processes. And that is what we are considering. Now, you've all got a little leaflet that was given to you when you came in. There's an organogram about how the policy forum works, which sums up some of it. I think it's, in reality, it would be more like a 3D sort of multifaceted thing if we had a proper organogram of how the National Policy Forum works. But that gives you the kind of idea. And what we want to do over the next few months is to have a review about how we can change this and go back to conference at the end of this September with some suggestions about how we can make it better than it is now. So thanks very much for listening, and we're going to, I think, have a session where people think about that. But first, it's me introducing somebody who I think you might all have been waiting to hear. We're very sneaky in the Labour Party. We don't put our biggest asset on first. And that means that you have to stay for the whole day so that you can actually see the main event. Obviously, all of your ideas are the main event, but I know that many, many, many of you are delighted to have been able to join the Labour Party here so that you can listen to the leader of the Labour Party address you now, Jeremy Corbyn.